Welcome to database design. So y'all requested this. Let's like unpack a little bit. Tiffany, I think you were asking for like social networks in particular. Expand more on like what you'd like out of this.
This actually just came from an idea that um, it was like John, Jack, and I in a room, and we were talking about how to design a database for a social media app. And
Okay.
let's say, like, for example, Instagram, what those models look like. Users following each other, users liking each other's posts, and like how we separate all of those things so it's like live together, and how we call on them and identify who they belong to.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So hopefully by the end of this lesson, you will be able to apply some of what you already know about relationships to more complex, more real worldy kind of examples. So first things first, I'm 37. I've never used Instagram. So let's do Facebook because I know it better. And let's make, all right, so what I want you to do is tell me some like nouns that Facebook, like the things that would be models in Facebook. So for example, a post. Give me some more nouns.
Photo.
What was that?
Or a status update, or is that same as post?
Same as post.
A like?
Yep. Now a like is really a kind of what?
A kind of post?
Nope. A like, it's not the only thing you can do with like something on Facebook. You can also heart it, you can smiley face it, all of which are examples of
Favoriting?
Reactions?
reactions. Cool. What else?
I don't remember what it's called, but Facebook also has their own reels or like the short videos that they have on literally every social media now.
Oh yeah, those are
Right.
like, oh, we call them reels.
Voice? Yeah.
Stories.
Sure. No, stories are different. Stories are like a collection of related things. I think the thing Sydney was talking about is like your year in friendship with.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Oh no, that's also another thing. But what I mean is like those stupid little videos you can do for that like last only 24 hours that everyone's using.
Oh, the like instant disappearing
Right.
ones.
Yeah. The thing that they copied from Snapchat.
Gotcha. So like the exploding. So like a type of post that explodes. What else? Other things that would be in the data model.
Am I allowed to participate as a student, considering
Yeah.
I don't actually know how this is gonna go? Like pictures and videos and like media, like actual.
Love it. What else?
Messages and stuff.
Yeah. So like if you have a message is usually part of a what?
An API, a separate API, or
Nope. We're just talking about models. So okay, so I just put those two messages in there.
oh, we can't see that box. It looks like a black box.
You are in the chat that I just typed it in.
Oh, I thought. Okay, I was like, okay.
So I just typed those two instances of message, both of which are a part of what? How are they related?
Chat?
Yep.
Chat box?
Well, like
Hmm.
more of a conversation of some kind.
Do you break that down even further, like the difference between like a chat and like a group chat, or no? Or would that be like a relation in it?
So, what's the difference between a conversation between two people and a conversation with more than two people? How many what's?
Users?
Hey, so that's probably something we got to have in here. What are some other nouns?
Albums, like for different
For like
media.
photo stuff or
Yeah,
media,
yeah.
a collection of media.
Doesn't
Would
you just
events count?
include friend requests?
Yeah, so users, we got to figure out how friends fit into this. You have
Group?
like a post or a status update or whatever, which can also have lots of what?
Mm,
Comments?
yeah.
Comments.
And reactions, I guess.
And you can comment on other people's comments, and there's like some light threading. What other things are part of the Facebook Eve? Or really, this could
Do
just
events count
what?
like birthdays? Do events count like birthdays and stuff like that?
Ooh,
And
so probably got to figure out where that fits in. And yeah, like when somebody comments, you can say, "Hey, I'm going to be playing a show tonight. Who's coming?" And it can also be something like, "Is it's so and so's birthday? Wouldn't you like to tell them hi?"
Oh yeah.
Also need a model for the Facebook groups that users are part of.
Ooh. Any other
groceries
big nouns?
in a similar vein to that, like the like business pages that you can follow.
Pages.
Hmm.
Any other models you can think of?
There's a whole bunch of stuff in the back end with like data analytics stuff. I don't really know exactly what those models would look like, but
Analytics is analysis of data. This is structure of data.
wouldn't there have to be some sort of data to track who has access to what?
So
Like
yeah, you could talk about like permissions and stuff.
that makes sense. But also you could like run campaigns, like ad campaigns and
Oh yeah, we're only talking about the product side of this, or sorry, the consumer side of this. There's also the part that actually makes money, which is like ad campaigns and stuff. Let's leave that out for right now because that'll make this too big. Just the user facing part. Anything else? All right, it's a pretty good start. So what I want you to give a shot is I want you to see if you can relate these as best you can. I'll also tell you that not all of these are entities. Some of them are properties of other entities. Um, let's see if you can figure out where the crow's feet go on these things. You can draw this out on paper and take a picture. You can use a spreadsheet, like I know some of you were doing that with John recently. You can use a diagramming tool. I don't care. But do your best. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to crank on this. Give a shot at trying to relate these. Go.
Mm. Mm.
Another minute? All right, so what I'd like you to do now is Slack me a screenshot, a photo, something of what you got done. Let's take a couple minutes for that. Where is it? What the fuck? Oh, why isn't this working? Maybe I can do it this way. Man. What I wanted to do was throw all these in this doc. Maybe I can do it this way. Nope, not working either. Shit, that sucks. All right, let me see what I can find in here. Can't decide if Friends has its own box. That's a good thing to be confused about. That is not a straightforward one. All right, so here's the first thing we got to figure out. We got to figure out how we do this friend business. So if I have a user, so let me do this a little bit differently. Okay, so I've got a user. User has an ID, has a display name, has lots of other things. I didn't see the right one. You may have done it, I might have missed it, but how do we handle this friends business? Because your friend is another user. Give me some ideas.
Is that what a self-referential relationship is?
Yes, it is. This one's a little bit more complicated though. So like the classic self-referential relationship is employees and managers. So you might have something like employee, an employee has an ID, and they also have a manager ID. And so if that's the primary key, this is the foreign key. That is a one-to-one relationship. Because this instance of manager is another employee.
Okay.
That's a self-referential relationship. Friends is a little bit different though. This would be like if you had more than one manager.
Hmm.
It's a many-to-many self-referential.
Right.
I'm going to give you a hint. The friendship is a model. You could sort of say it's like a join table.
So would like would an instance of a friendship just tie together two user IDs?
Correct. So you'd have friend one ID, friend two ID. This, so now we got to figure out how we do this. So one user, can they have more than one friendship? They can. So that means this ID can show up more than once. So that's a one-to-many. That exact same thing is true of this one. And that's how you do friends.
So in my user class, I would have like a user has many friendships and then also has many users through friendships.
Correct. And those has many users through friendships, those are your friends.
Gotcha.
So if you were doing user.friends, yeah, you're just doing this loop.
Okay, that's actually like not as complicated as I thought it would be.
It's exactly like a many-to-many relationship, except
With itself.
the two things come back together to the same thing.
Would I run into any weird fuck shit in Rails if I actually tried to code that?
Nope. That's pretty normal.
Sweet.
So I guess kind of how that would work on the front would be when two users like both accept a friendship, a post to a friendship would be sent to the backend.
Bingo. Unfriending somebody, find this record, delete it.
Do you think Facebook would track like instead of finding a record and deleting it, they would have like a status or something that they would change so they could track that data?
Of course. Facebook doesn't delete shit. So what you do with both of these things is deleted.
Gotcha. You're doing a patch request and then
Right. And so you can throw that on every single table, and then rather than deleting the table, you are deleting the record, you flag it as deleted. So it doesn't show up in any of your queries, but you still have the data, so you can still run analytics on it and stuff. As you might imagine, this is relatively controversial. It's also a default practice.
interesting.
Wait, why controversial?
Because you go, oh, I don't want Mark Zuckerberg having my data. I deleted my account. You didn't delete shit. You just made it so that you couldn't log in anymore. They are never getting rid of your data.
So you mean that video of me from middle school? No, I'm just kidding.
Somebody has it somewhere. Other questions about this relationship in particular? It's a weird one. Just put a real fine point on it. And this is what most of you tried, was having a user and a user, and then we put this like friendship in the middle. So if we did that, that's a clear many-to-many. That's exactly what this is. It's just like folds that over into that. And the result would look like that.
So when you mute or block someone, that's less a relationship thing. It's more permissions.
So things like that. This is another thing that's, as you're learning data modeling, takes some practice. That's probably not a separate entity. That's probably a characteristic of this friendship. So you might have something like is muted as a characteristic of this friendship.
What job would you need at Facebook to see all of these databases?
Oh, probably everybody can see the data model. Their interns can probably see the data model.
Mm.
Seeing the data, that's a different story. And in most cases, like those like FANG kinds of companies, you're not supposed to be able to like look up anybody's shit. You are supposed to be able to work with it in aggregate. So like you might be able to say, how many people have used the word fuck in a status update over the last hour? So like doing that, sure. What did Jenny post on her wall? Like you're not supposed to be able to do that.
I love how you use not supposed to do or be able to.
Well, so I say that because Google got popped for it a couple years ago. Google employee ex-girlfriend spying. There you go.
Wow.
Ta-da! Other questions about this kind of relationship?
What is Fang?
Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google. Oh, and there's an extra A or N in there. No, it's another A. Amazon. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google.
So you have to be that big to have that restriction of only being able to look at aggregate data?
No, it's just more common with them because they have a shit ton of it.
Gotcha.
And like they're very high visibility. You're like goofy SaaS startup with 50 users, like nobody gives a shit. All right, let's look at some other ones. So let's see how we did on posts. Let's see who else is in here. John.
Mine's hideous. Don't look.
I'm looking. Ah, cool. Good. So commenting on comments. That was one that like people struggled with a lot too. All right, so a user can make posts. Just about everybody got that. So you might say something like, one user can have many posts, but each post only has one user that made it. You might say something like post, which has an ID, author ID, that's the many. Might have a date, content, that kind of stuff. All right. So a user can also make a comment.
Comment wouldn't be through post?
Though those two things have to have some relationship, but comment's also made by a person. So it's going to have some direct relationship with user. That's going to be that author ID. But yeah, think about all the things you can comment on. You can comment on a post. This differently. You can comment on a post. You can comment on another comment. You can comment on an event.
Mm-hmm.
All those different things you can comment on. They're all comments. They're all like essentially the same thing. How on earth do we manage that? I'd ask for your thoughts, but this one is very counterintuitive. I doubt anybody would guess it. It has a name. This is called a polymorphic relationship. And like your hint that it's polymorphic is the presence of something of the word type. As soon as you see anything with type on it, you're almost definitely dealing with a polymorphic relationship. So what this is saying is that this particular comment will have is related to something. The specific table that it's related to, it's different for everyone. So like that might be content type, content ID. So the content type is going to be post, comment, event. It's going to be the name of the table. The content ID is the ID that you're joining on. So you could say that this comment has a one-to-many relationship with post, normal. It also, if events are a separate thing, like birthdays and stuff, it could also have that same relationship with event. Which one does it try to join to? Well, that depends on the content type. And then any guesses how we handle a comment on a comment?
I don't know if it's the right solution, but in my table, I've specified it as 2 different content types, I guess. It would be like a level 1 comment is one type, and then a level 2 comment would be another type.
So anytime you find yourself doing that with table names, you're probably on the wrong track. Because like, for example, you're only allowed to go like a few levels deep in Facebook. Why though? Let's say it changes to like, no, you can make an arbitrary number of comments. Are you gonna make comment 1, 2, 3, 400, 5,000, 5 million? So we need something that can handle that like kind of recursion.
Right.
Would it be kind of like the self-referential relationship with the users, but just
Ding,
comments?
ding, ding, ding. You got it. Take me all the way there. What is it?
Shit, hold on. It would be it's not in the same way where you have to have the middle table, or do you? You don't? Okay, cool. So it would just
Because you can't
be,
comment on more than one thing.
yeah, it would just be the ID, like the references would be that ID connected with the other ID, and they're like interchangeable.
Yep. Bingo. Ding, ding, ding. And that's a 1-to-1.
Wait, it would be a 1-to-1, because wouldn't one comment be able to have many comments?
Let's see. Let's think about that. What is the, no, because it can't be a comment on more than one comment.
I'm confused now.
So let's make it concrete. We have a comment, it's ID 1, author ID is 50, content type is, oh, they don't all have to have one. That's part of polymorphics. So this is also going to have like message or content or something. So the content type is going to be nothing, nothing, hi. So that's a comment made by user 50. The comment is ID 1. The content of the comment was hi. Then our next one is going to be a comment by user 51. Content type is comment because it's a comment on a comment. The ID that we're relating to is 1. And message is lol. That's dumb. It's a bullying comment. The reason it's a 1-to-1 is that one those are the same thing. That's the relationship right there.
So we're saying that the first comment, I'm confused because you're saying that the first comment is not referencing any other comment though.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
But couldn't you write 3 comments after that that also reference that first comment?
Yeah, and they're all pointing to the exact same thing.
So if you were to do 3 different users pointing to comment 1 though, then wouldn't that be a one-to-many? That's what I'm confused about. Let's
see. So could that show up in that more than one time? Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to give you that.
What? I actually was right. I thought there.
I'm not actually so surprised.
Whoa.
I didn't hire a stupid ass. I mean, you may be Mr. Oops, but
I really did not. Okay, that makes sense though. So one comment can have many comments, I guess.
oh yeah, there you go.
Okay.
On the same comment.
And how would this work if I were writing in? Is there anything special you have to do for a polymorphic relationship in Rails?
Yeah, yes, there is. Polymorphic relationships and active record are, there's a specific syntax for it. So polymorphic relationship active record. You put polymorphic true on it. And then it needs to have a type in the table.
Interesting. How do you specify? Oh, how do you specify something as? Oh, I see a picture. So a picture is an imageable, and you're saying that polymorphic.
Right. So anything that falls into that category. So in this case, it'd be commentable. Anything that can be commented on, which might be any number of different tables.
So would that mean that, like, let's say a post belongs to a commentable, event belongs to commentable?
It'd be the other way around. Like a commentable thing belongs to a post, a commentable thing belongs to an event.
That's cool.
It's like these relationships, you always say them from like the one direction. You know, one event has a bunch of comments. One post has a bunch of comments. One comment has a bunch of comments.
So can you sort of think of like a polymorphic relationship as like well, here we're defining different kind of like data types. Each data type is a table. Is a polymorphic thing kind of like a relationship type?
Yeah, it's one of the more advanced kinds of relationships.
Interesting.
90% of the stuff that you work with in data modeling is one-to-many relationships. But, and even like a many-to-many relationship, that's kind of made up. That's not a real thing. We talk about it that way, but really a many-to-many relationship is just these two one-to-many relationships.
Yeah.
One-to-one relationships and one-to-many relationships, those are real.
Yeah.
So the
polymorphic relationships are real too. What?
The content type is what allows you to essentially like thread forums. So whenever they hit reply, like on thinking about comments, like you can do normal comments down the line and it won't have that content type. But the second you hit reply, that content type turns into comment and then it goes into its own separate thing.
You're thinking about something very closely related, but not the same thing. So this is specifically if we need to be able to use the same relationship, but with an arbitrary number of different tables. Because you can comment on a post, you can comment on an event, you can comment on this. What you're talking about is just comments on comments on comments on comments. That's slightly different. So it's simpler. So in a forum, you might have, just call all of them posts. And so post has an ID, and then what you do is have a parent ID. And then one ID can show up a bunch of times in this. And so a top level post is just one that doesn't have a parent ID. But this can arbitrarily nest 5 million levels deep.
So wait, how do you limit that? You just stop giving it permissions to dive in, like go further?
Good question. So you have to ask yourself, do I want to limit that at the application level or do I want to limit it at the data level? You could technically do either. I'd be inclined to limit that in your application. So for example, you try to make a post with a parent ID. As part of the validations on that, you go, all right, how many levels does that go? And before it allows you to make the post, it checks how many times that goes. And if there's already 5, then you go, oh, sorry, I can't make the post. You could also do this at the data level. It's a lot messier though. So you would probably do that by like saying something like level. Maybe you're storing that on the record. And then as part of inserting a record into the table, you'd say, all right, and since the last level, the level of my parent ID was 2, the level of this one's going to be 3. And then, God, I'm trying to think of how you'd make an integrity rule about that. You'd essentially still be writing it with programming. You'd just be programming the database. So like there's stuff that's a little out of scope for the program that we do, but you can still write loops and if statements and stuff in databases. That's what my wife does for a living. So you'd go like disallow adding something if there's already a level 5 or whatever. But I probably handle all of it at application level.
So it's probably better to do it on application level where once it hits a certain level of like, I guess, nesting, for lack of a better word, that you just remove that reply button off of the post itself.
Exactly. And then validate it so that somebody doesn't hack the button back on and then try to make the post anyway. But otherwise, don't enforce that as a data integrity thing in your database.
Okay, cool.
It is cool.
This side is probably the back end that I would like to work on, like databases and such like that.
Well, like, hopefully this gave you a flavor for, there's a lot more than we do in the program. Like, I got a degree in this. It's fairly complicated, but it's also super fun. And when you start digging into data modeling, you don't look at the world the same anymore. You just think of everything in terms of like relationships. And it was my first love in software engineering was data modeling, and I still love it. And when I taught at Galvanize, it was like, all right, you get 5 days to teach data modeling. It was like, how on earth could you do such a thing? And then I went to Flatiron, like, you have 1 day to teach data modeling. But hopefully this gave you like some kind of idea of what's possible. So what I'd like to do now is let's get some takeaways. So I want you to think to yourself for a second what some takeaways from this last hour were, and then we're going to share. You got a second to think of yourself. Oh, so everybody fucking quit? I'm not doing these things anymore. Tiffany, give me a takeaway.
Well, I learned about polymorphic relationships, and on a very base level, I'll know when I see one. If I see type as a characteristic in a database model, then it's indicative of a polymorphic relationship.
Excellent. Very nice. John, give me a takeaway.
I mean, it's also going to be polymorphic relationships, but for me, the way that I think I would know to use one was while I was trying to design the database, I kept noticing a recurring pattern, and the recurring pattern being, oh, I'm tacking comments onto everything. I'm tacking like just media onto everything. And it's like I was thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this, and it just turns out that answer is polymorphic relationships. So
Damn straight.
I'll have to relearn it whenever I go to do it next time, because I'm probably not going to do it for a while. But hopefully, it'll send me down the right rabbit hole at least. So
Beautiful. Marcos, give me a takeaway.
Yeah, polymorphic is definitely a big one, and also self-referential is very cool as well. Did not know about that, so.
Excellent. Very nice. Sydney, give me a takeaway.
Hold on, blanking. Data modeling is actually looking pretty fun. And not, okay, that's stupid naive of me. It's like, oh, it doesn't seem like that hard. I know it's a lot harder than what it looks like on the surface, but it looks like it'd be fun to work with.
Excellent. Very nice, very nice. And
Yeah, self-referential association doesn't seem as scary anymore.
good. Very nice. And sometimes like implementing this stuff, like getting the database constraints right, like the technical implementation of these things, yeah, sometimes that's a little bit tricky. But like getting it right in your head first, wrestling with this on paper, like I maintain that the most horrific programming gymnastics I ever seen in an application are because somebody modeled the data wrong in the first place. If you find yourself like, no, I got to do this, and I got to wrestle it into this shape, and I got to mash it up with this and do all these things, you probably just didn't model it correctly. Cool. So thank you so much for this. We're talking code right after this. So see you soon.
it's probably one of my favorite